champions. This group here has sung absolutely a champion song all the way from Apple Valley, California. Your champions, Indian Hell!
This programming is brought to you in partnership with Morningstar Counseling and Society of Care. Both organizations provide mental health services and programming to sustain and strengthen a future of health and wellness for Indian country.
Okay, hello. Welcome back to another amazing episode for Indigenous youth, where we focus our conversations on mental health and we provide an outlet for our Native youth to share their thoughts and their ideas pertaining to these mental health topics. And so, as always, I'm your co-host, Sandy Mackey Scott. I've been co-hosting with Shailece since the podcast has begun. And so, for those new listeners, I'm a member of the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. I serve as the Community Outreach Coordinator for Morningstar Counseling. Unfortunately, Shailece wasn't able to be here today, so she's going to owe me for this. But I do have an amazing stand-in for my co-host here. I have Miss Kelly Warrior here. Do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Mackie. Mm-hmm. And also thank you for welcoming back to this awesome podcast. So my name is Kelly Warrior. I'm from the Southern Ponca Tribe of Oklahoma, and I am Omaha. I'm currently wrapping up my master's in clinical mental health counseling down at Doane University. So I serve Indigenous students in the Northeast Nebraska area as an intern mental health therapist.
Okay. Yeah, welcome, Kelly. So for our consistent viewers and listeners, Kelly's been on our show before, and it's amazing to have you back and to share your insight and your experiences. So it's always good to have our guests come back as well. So Morningstar Counseling, along with Society of Care, they are our sponsorships for this podcast here. And I just want to give them a big shout out for making this podcast possible. And also for our new viewers and listeners, if you're not familiar with our show and this is your first episode tuning in, just want to share how our show usually is lined up and set up. So we base our episodes around a theme each month, and we kind of center that around the awareness topics for mental health each month. And so February is the Youth Mental Health Awareness Month, and that's kind of what the theme is for this episode. And we're going to go a little bit more in detail what we're going to focus on, and that's going to be the healthy emotional relationships that our youth have experience with and deal with, and just kind of their insight on that as well. And then also the healthy physical wellness into our youth. And so those are the two main topics we'll be talking about for this episode here. And so we're amazing to get started. We'll get started with the conversations and get going. So let's do some introductions here. Me and Callie introduced ourselves already. So go ahead, our new Native youth, go ahead and feel free to introduce who you are.
Okay, I'm Shailece Porter. I'm part of the Omaha Tribe of Nebraska. I go to White Hill Public School, and I am a senior this year.
I'm Laverne Wood. I'm part of the Omaha Tribe Council. I go to White Hill Public School, and I'm a senior.
Okay, welcome.
I'm Mimi Cardozo. I'm part of the Winnebago Tribe, and I go to school Winnebago, and I'm a senior.
Nice. All right. Welcome, ladies. I appreciate you being here, taking the time to have these important conversations. Like I said, this podcast is more engaged to hear from you and your thoughts and things like that. So I'm excited to talk about these topics today with you. So let's go. We usually like to start with getting the perspective of mental health from our youth. And so we always like to start this with our new guests. And so the first question that I have for the three of you, and feel free to hop in wherever you want. The first question that I have is how would you describe mental health? So like when you hear mental health, how would you describe that or explain that?
I think it includes our emotional and like social well-being.
Emotional, social well-being. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I think of mental health, I think of like our social well-being and our mental, like our emotions.
Nice. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you kind of had those ideas, those keywords to describe and what that is. How would you implement mental health into your house or into your life? I mean, how does that play a part in your life? If it does or if it doesn't, go ahead and share that.
I think mental health plays like a huge role in your everyday life. I think it affects everything.
Yeah, I think what you said. I think it affects everything because, like, if you don't have a good mental health, then I don't think you're gonna want to like take care of yourself or anything.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. The idea of mental health, is it kind of, would you say, is it a kind of new concept for y'all, or did you hear about this? Was this something that you heard growing up, or is this kind of like something new in the past few years you learned? I guess, what has that been like for you growing up?
What it's been like for me growing up, I didn't really learn about mental health until I was in 9th grade. Because in 9th grade, all I've had was like major panic attacks during class, and it affected my classwork, and it made me like get really behind. And I don't know.
For me, I think I've always known about mental health. Like, I have a really supportive family. So as soon as my mom recognized anything, she was there to like educate me about it.
I didn't really know about mental health until I entered high school. My mental health was kind of rocky at first, but then I like taught myself how to go like on the right path to like, I don't know, like put myself before everyone else in some situations. And that helped me a lot. But like, I really don't know what mental health means, but then there's like sometimes where I do. Like, yeah. Well,
Thanks for sharing that. I love that, the vulnerability that each of you shared and the different insight that you had. So that's kind of a good thing, that when we have these conversations, like there's not one right answer, and it's always good just to see a different perspective from each of you. So thanks for sharing that. So that kind of gives us an idea of where our youth are thinking about for mental health, how they would describe that. Let's go ahead and get into our first section here. We are going to talk about how we develop healthy emotional relationships. And so when we talk about this, when we think about relationships, I want us to think more beyond just our partners, like our boyfriends and girlfriends and things like that. But when we say relationships, that means with our friends, with our coworkers, with our family. So those are the types of things that we're talking about when we say healthy emotional relationships. Because I think emotions go into any relationships that we create, And so that's kind of what the focus is for this portion of the conversation. So let's go ahead and start with the first question. The first question is, what do you think a healthy relationship is, or what does a healthy relationship look like?
A healthy relationship to me looks like being supportive for each other, like having each other's back, and like communicating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a healthy emotional relationship to me looks like basically what Angelicia said, having a lot of loyalty within others and having a lot of trust. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they had really good points. I would just say being able to be vulnerable with him and just feeling comfortable, and I think trust is a huge.
Yeah, nice. I don't know, did you have any thoughts about that? I don't know.
Well, I did want to ask you guys a question. Do you know when mental health starts? Like, is it in high school or in middle school, in your adulthood? When do you think that it starts?
I think it starts like in your childhood.
Okay.
Like I feel like it's like always gonna like mental health is like a big thing, like a big part of your life.
Yeah, doesn't really specify on when it starts. You just sometimes people don't know when it starts, and then when they have like panic attacks and anxiety attacks, they kind of look for more resources on mental health and stuff.
I think mental health, it doesn't have, there's no starting point, I feel like, of it, but it really starts when you identify, like,
yeah, those were amazing answers. Thank you so much. And I love, Yvonne, what you said about it's a journey. And once people start experiencing mental health, that's when they start recognizing like, whoa, I have a relationship with mental health, or I have a relationship with myself and my emotions. But it really starts developing while you're in the womb. And so what your mother feels, you feel. And we feel that on such like a magnitude of a level. So thinking about like whenever mothers, they start experiencing emotional distress, that's whenever the baby starts feeling that. And they could feel at such a high capacity that it can send the mother into false labor or labor, you know. And so there's been lots of studies done whenever women are carrying their babies. And a really, really phenomenal study was done on mothers that were directly impacted post 9/11. And so after that terrorist attack and mothers were pregnant, their babies were studied after they gave birth, and it was shown like the babies, if they were fed, bathed, in diapers, well taken care of, they were still under like a lot of stress. So they were crying, really crabby, agitated, like were fussy and all of that. But that was their first introduction to mental health, was that high severe stress level. And so that's whenever it starts.
Yeah, thanks for providing a clinical view on that. That's amazing that you shared that. And I think it's good to have these conversations to show how soon mental health can start and how vital it can be.
And relationships.
So the next question here, now that we're kind of going into the relationship discussion here, what does a healthy relationship look like with your peers for you? What does a healthy relationship look like with your peers?
Trust and just feeling comfortable with your peers, and just knowing that whatever you tell them stays with that person.
Yeah, the same with me and Kate.
Okay. Do you think a healthy relationship looks different with your peers compared to your family, or do you think they're the same? Just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
For me, I think it's like definitely different, because there's like some things you don't want your family to know. Like there's just a different level of not trust, but just a different level of them knowing about you.
Like your family knows a part of you, but your friends know a different part of you.
Exactly. And I'm more comfortable around my family, so I just feel like they know two different parts.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I can go all day about that topic, but we're here to hear from our youth here, you know. So I'm glad that you shared that, and I would have to agree that I think there is two different, I wouldn't say realms to those relationships, but it's good to like reflect on those relationships too, like how it looks with your friends and then how it looks with your family, and you know, it might even come to the conversation. Well, you gotta be real. You gotta be real, and you can't be fake. You know what I mean? But we have to reframe our thinking and see it as this is how my relationship works with my family, and this is how my relationship works with my peers and my friends, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it comes to setting those boundaries and building that trust, and then building that vulnerability, comfortability with them too. So keep that in mind too. All right, so we kind of talked about what we think the healthy relationships look like. Now let's go to the other side of unhealthy relationship. What does that look like for each of you? I guess share like what's it look like for maybe our peers, what's it look like for our family, for our coworkers, or maybe just explain what do you think an unhealthy relationship looks like in general.
For me, that would be like always arguing,
Mm-hmm.
not having like not trusting one another,
Mm-hmm.
or like not being comfortable. Yeah.
I don't really know. All I know is that growing up, I had a really hard time with this one person that's in our grade. I'm not name dropping because that's really, but growing up, they would make fun of my height, and it like make fun of my height, my size, just overall everything about me, and it like affected me as a whole. So growing up, I thought I was the reason, but they were, I don't know, they were probably insecure about themselves too. But now we're good, we're friends, and yeah, it was like really unhealthy, but we're good now.
That's good. I'm glad you shared that. And that is a form of relationship, even though it's not intimate or as close. But when we're in school with our classmates, with our peers, those are relationships there. You know what I mean? And experiencing those types of feelings and those situations comes with that, you know. And I'm glad that you recognize that and, you know, see the self-value in yourself and overcoming that. And I love that you guys are connected now. It's a different kind of relationship now. And I think that's important with our relationships too, is they might be at this level at one point and they might dissipate or they might grow, you know. And that really comes back to the two individuals in that relationship and what that looks like and the work that goes with that. But we can go more into that later in these conversations. Unika, did you have anything?
Yeah. I think an unhealthy relationship with anyone is like there's nothing but like hatefulness towards like, or when you're around that person, or just like more of like competition or relationship wise, like possession.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. So when, say we're in these relationships, and what are some like red flags that maybe you've seen or you would say to recognize a unhealthy relationship in your experiences? What are some red flags? Like you see something like, oh man, that's not a good relationship or friendship to be in. What do those red flags look like?
Possessiveness. Like always controlling the other person's life or trying to control them. Like they have their own life. They have to do this and that. You can't control everyone.
Yeah, I agree with Angelicia. Like a lot of obsessiveness, possessiveness, and overall just like really clingy, like really, really clingy to that one person. And it makes the individual feel really suffocated in the friendship.
Yeah, they had good points. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are some great points that you shared. And, you know, in our relationships, when they're demonstrating these red flags, I want us to think about too, like if they're demonstrating that, do we feel comfortable having those conversations with those peers or those people? Like when they show those red flags, or have you had any conversations with them before where like, hey, you're being too clingy or you're being too possessive, or I don't feel comfortable around you? Have you ever had those conversations about those types of things with your relationships? And if so, what was that like?
No, I never had the, never felt comfortable getting to those conversations, because when I was in middle school, I had this friend, she like basically controlled who I was friends with and stuff. And at that time, her and another friend were like the only friends I had. And if I talk to them about it, it would make it seem like I was going to lose that friendship. And I was like really lonely back then, so I didn't want to lose that friendship. But now that I'm grown, I have other friends. I have different friend groups. I have Licia, for example. I have a few other friends at school. I have a few friends basically all over the place. Like, I have a few online friends that I'm really comfortable talking to. And, yeah.
Yeah, I have talked to a couple of my friends about how they were acting. Like, they were showing their red flags. And I just asked them, like, to, like, try to control it so it don't happen again. Because if it happens again, I wouldn't want that person in my life anymore. Like, I want to do what's best for me.
Yeah, I had similar experiences with that, but more with both sides. Like, I would act like not possessive, but like just exactly what they said, but on both sides. Like, I recognize that I act like that too sometimes.
Yeah, well, thanks for all three of you being vulnerable and sharing that. I think that's what makes these conversations even more powerful, is just sharing those experiences, you know. And I'm sensing a lot of reflection from each of your each of your responses. You're not directing it towards the other person. You're reflecting on your own selves and saying, this is something that, you know, I was doing then and now I'm building from it. Or I notice that I do this sometimes and I'm reflecting on it. So that's good. That's you're reflecting on it and building from that. And that's kind of one of the pieces I want to talk about too, was with the relationship. When we talk about those, a meaningful and powerful relationship is seeing each other as equals, not as they're my friend or I'm over them or I'm under them. You're both individuals. You should have that mindset, you know. And so that comes to respecting each other, having to have that conversation and not having to feel that hesitancy of, you know, they said something that hurt me or they said something I don't agree with, but I don't feel comfortable talking to them. So that, in a sense, is almost kind of a red flag, because it comes to confrontation. And in a healthy relationship, you should be able to express yourself and not be able to be hesitant about that. Do you have anything with that?
No, I was just really thinking about all of the answers. Like, it's such a privilege to have the three of you come up here and express yourself in that manner. It can be really hard to think about those memories. And it takes a lot of courage to sit here and say, that's what I've experienced, but I went through it on both ends. Like, I love that. And I'm feeling like a magnitude of gratitude right now. It just feels so good to hear three different stories, but each one is so powerful and so valid. And so there's other people who are going to be listening, who are going to hear those things, who are going to relate. Like, you're paving the way for kids because they haven't seen somebody do that, you know. And so that's kind of like the space of like where I'm at right now.
Right. Yeah. And you know, and it's normal to feel that jealousy. I think we've all been there. I've been there before, where I'll see a group of my friends are out doing something and I'm just like, hey, where's my invite, or what happened to me? You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean they don't care for you. You know, just things happen. And I think we have to kind of watch our thinking, like, well, man, they're not my friends anymore. They don't obviously want to hang out with me. They But there are times where I have this circle of friends and we do things all the time together. We have like friend dinners and we do holidays together. But there are times where I'll just invite 2 out of my 5 friends to go do something. And it's more of like getting to connect with them and talk with them about certain things that they're going through. And that's okay. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they just want to talk to you and reflect with you, and not make it a well-known thing that they're going through. So keep that in mind when we're talking about our friendships, you know. But also it comes back to feeling free to, like I said, be able to talk to each other and not having to watch what you say. But it's important how we say it too. We don't want to be shouting at each other or holding them hostage to like information they had. Like, well, if you do this, I'm going to use this against you. That's not healthy either too. But it takes work though, relationships. You got to work on that on both sides. It's not just the one road. If it's a one road relationship, then it's probably not going to work out. It's going to have its bumps, you know what I mean? So it's a 2-way road. So keep that in mind as well. Um, so kind of thinking about our cultural piece of it and our own families, like what were some of the values or cultural pieces when we think about relationships growing up? So like what were some of our family teachings when it came to relationships, and how do those, I guess, teachings or values look for relationships for you?
Just like having quality time or like loyalty to each other. That really like made me want to have quality time with like my peers or like coworkers to get to know them so I could trust them more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, my family, like, I have such a supportive family, and it's gonna, I feel like it's gonna carry on with me like throughout my life. And like she said, my family, we're always together and spending time together. So I think I would use that.
Okay. Yeah. And just to kind of emphasize on that too, share a little bit insight on, my upbringing too. I just think when I think of Indigenous people or Native people in general, like family is the one word that comes to mind. Like we're so family centric. It's the center of our culture. We don't have first, second cousins. We have brothers and sisters, and that concept, and so for me growing up, something that my mother always stressed for me and my siblings was not to fight. I mean, we could fight, but don't stay mad at each other forever. Don't hold that grudge. Be nice to your siblings and be supportive there. And the reason she would teach that to us is, when I pass on, when I go, you and your brothers and sisters will be there to support each other and be that family unit. So try to overcome those angry feelings. It's okay to be mad at each other, but it's not okay to be holding those grudges and destructive to one another. And so that was like one of the family teachings that I was taught to. Do you have anything pertaining to that? Like what was something, I guess, instilled into you about relationships or culture-wise growing up?
What immediately came to mind is having a close relationship with elders, and having a very respectful relationship there, and definitely family. I love that you've said family. Coming from a Native community, going to a Native school, pretty much K through undergrad, and then going to a predominantly white institution, expressing, I'm studying for this major test, and it says like, what's a nuclear family? And, within a nuclear family, according to this westernized text, it says your mother, a father, and their children. Like that's it. And I'm just like, that's so far from reality than what Native people see. And so I think about how I grew up. I grew up in a multi-generational home. So it was me and my siblings that lived under one roof with my mother, with my mother's mother, and with my grandma's parents. Like that was our norm. And that's just the norm across Indian country.
Right.
And so I think that when it comes to relationships, like family, definitely family is the center of that, and our community too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I think it's so common to have our cousins, our own cousins, like our brothers and sisters, and our uncles and aunts all in one household. Because I remember that growing up, it was all of us cramped in one house, and it was chaotic and hectic, but that was like the norm. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what strengthens our relationships with our families and with each other. But also with that piece, my mother, unfortunately, she dealt with substance abuse growing up, and so there were some shifty things there too. And one of the things was, you need to be there for your family no matter what. I think our youth kind of use that family over everything concept. At one point, that was my mindset growing up. Like, I'll be there for my family no matter what. And this is just my personal perspective, so don't think saying this is the right way. This is just my idea. But I don't necessarily follow that idea anymore. And I only say that just because, unfortunately, some of our relatives, they deal with substance abuse and they're not in the right state of mind. They're not in a clear mindset. And so they create these unhealthy habits. They have these unhealthy requests from you. you know, and with my mother, like I said, she had her challenges with substance abuse. She would call me and expect me to drop everything, give her a ride to the grocery store, to here and that, loan her this money. And me being her son and her, my mother, that's what I thought, like, okay, I got to do everything for my mom, be there for her. But as I grew up, I recognized that wasn't a healthy relationship. There weren't boundaries there. We didn't see each other as equals. I saw her as higher than me. She saw me lower as her, where I had to come to her will. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that situation. When there's substance abuse and part of that, then I kind of question that concept. But other than that, I do feel a sense to like we have to be there for our family to a realistic and certain degree.
I agree with you on that. Because me and, like you said, our siblings, even though they're like not really our siblings, but they're still our siblings no matter what. We all grew up under my grandma's house, like her roof. Like we all lived, like our moms and dads and us would be in one room, and then they would be in another room. Like, yeah, we'd all just cramp up into one room.
Right.
And then as I got older, like a lot of things started coming out, and like I have to do certain things for me. Like I can't just drop everything for one person.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really common struggle for our people in general, is because, you know, we want the best for our family, and we're taught to be humble and be there for each other. But at the end of the day, boundaries are healthy. Like people think boundaries are this toxic, bad thing, but we have to have boundaries for ourselves, for our family, for our friends. And so I'm glad that you shared that, because eventually when I got older, I set those boundaries with my mom. Was it easy? Was it comfortable? No. You know, there was a lot of conversation there, a lot of arguments, you know, a lot of ugly things said. But end of the day, like, you respect yourself for what you want. Like, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to, you know, do your own thing, your career, your interests, your hobbies, because that's who you are as a person. You know, as individuals, that's important to you, and that's a part of your identity. And we shouldn't have to sacrifice those things because someone else, I guess, because of their own selfish needs. You know, so there's a balance to this. I like that you shared that. Appreciate that. So thinking about these family values and teachings growing up, how do those translate into your relationship? So like, do you carry some of that into every relationship you make, or just certain relationships? So like, yeah, like what we just talked about, like our teachings and values of relationships, does that carry into all your relationships, and what's that look like?
I think for me, yeah, to carry into every relationship with like my friends, or if I like get into an actual like relationship, because I would want my partner and my friends to like trust me, and I could trust them, and like spend really like a lot of quality time together, so we could build that little bond together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that it has been brought to other like friendships that I've had, like being supportive with them and just being there for them no matter what.
Okay. Yeah. It's good to see that, because like I said, like those teachings, those are coming with us as we get older. And I think they'll shift too. You know, I think thinking about, this was taught to me growing up. Like I said, we were always taught family, everything, be there for your family. I still follow that concept, just not as fully as what it was taught to me to a certain degree. And I think that is true for all of us, is like when we grow up, some of the concepts that was shared with us through our families, they might change because of our experiences and who we are as a person. You know what I mean? So I want you to think about that growth as well. Like, it's not, well, my mom and my dad or my aunt or uncle, they taught me this when I was younger, so I have to keep that idea alive in all my relationships, when we also got to think times are different for them too. You know, technology was different for them. Relationships were different for them. Just the hard times were different for them. So their concept of family values and teachings were different then, you know what I mean? But also going all the way back to our ancestors, you know, those types of relationships were more different and more meaningful in their own ways too. So those shift through time. Okay, so this probably would be the final question for this section here. So how do we cope with the unhealthy relationship? So say when we are experiencing a healthy relationship, how do we cope with that, or how do we manage that, or how do we go forward with that? Thoughts on that?
Normally when I cope with an unhealthy relationship, I normally self-isolate myself from everything until I can get my mental health and the relationship under control as a person. Because you can also have an unhealthy relationship with yourself, and it can affect everything around you. With your friends, with your family, it can like cause a lot of rifts within your life, and we don't want that. We want to bring us together.
Right. Yeah, I like that idea, which you said, where it can affect us mentally. And I'm thinking of like, say we're out in the woods and it's getting cold. We need a fire to keep us warm. You know what I mean? And keeping that safe distance, it's going to keep us warm. But if we get closer or keep playing around with it unnecessarily, you're going to get burned. You know what I mean? And so it kind of comes back with that idea. If you're in a toxic relationship, if you're not working towards bettering that or growing from that, you're just going to keep getting hurt from it. And I kind of feel like you're talking a little form of gaslighting too. If you're constantly in this unhealthy relationship and they keep telling you, something about yourself or about the relationship. Oh, you're selfish for wanting to go and, go work out, or you were selfish because you want to go and hang out with your friends. And then you keep hearing that and you almost kind of start believing that yourself, like, okay, maybe I am selfish. You know what I mean? Okay, I need to tell him back. And then it starts affecting your mental health, because then boom, you're cutting yourself off from something you like to do, working out. You're cutting yourself off from other beneficial relationships like your friends. And so I'm glad that you brought that concept up, because we do need to be mindful of those unhealthy relationships, because they can bleed into other areas of our life in a negative way. Sorry, I had to go off on a tangent. I know you two had to wanted to add on to that conversation.
Yeah, I want to add on. Okay, so like the start of high school, I had an unhealthy way of coping. I would gaslight myself into thinking that like, oh, it's just like, it's nothing. Like this little argument is nothing. It's all right. We'll move on the next day. But as I got older, I learned that it's not all right. It's not okay to do that, and that we need to sit down and talk it out. And like, we gotta learn how to change like our ways of doing things.
I think sometimes we're in a situation where, oh, this is just how things are. This is how we handle things. And so just because that's been happening or things been dealt with that for so long, doesn't mean that's the way you should go with it. You know what I mean? And what you're talking about, I feel like you're talking about breaking intergenerational trauma, bad ways of thinking and handling things. One of the things that I think about when you say that is like, if you're upset about something and you share that with your family or friends, like, hey, when you said that or said that joke about me, it really hurt my feelings. You might have thought it was funny. Oh, gee, you're just being insensitive, and gee, you're overthinking. I was just joking. That's invalidating your feelings and how you're feeling and what you're feeling. You know what I mean? Like, that's saying, well, your emotions don't matter. Like, get over it. But that's not healthy. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of our people sometimes think that commonly, just because of I feel like it's part of the historic trauma, the lateral violence. There's so much more that goes into it. And so definitely what you're talking about, I dealt with that too, and I continue to deal with that. But I love that you're making that change and addressing that. And I encourage you to continue thinking that way and handling situations like that, because it comes to a conversation and expressing yourself and what you're doing. I think you're on the right path for that.
I would say I also have like unhealthy coping mechanisms. I like to also isolate myself and keep things to myself. I only like my best friends. I tell them everything, but other than that, I don't want to talk to anyone else about it. It like I don't know. I think it makes me uncomfortable talking about my feelings. And another thing that I do, like I distract myself from what's happening. But a healthy coping mechanism, is just being around my friends and my family to make me feel better.
That's good. Okay. Yeah. I think it's okay to isolate, to give yourself time to think about those feelings and those situations, especially like when we're in it. You have a moment to reflect on it, because then there's some people that they act out of emotion and reaction in a moment. You know what I mean? And sometimes in those moments we might say or do things we don't really mean. You know, so it's good to isolate and think about those things too. But I think it's also a healthy balance to not completely isolate yourself. Like if you want to reach out to someone and get a different perspective, or even counseling, you know what I mean? But like you both said, you do have that other mechanism where if I'm feeling this way, I'm going to hang out with my family, or I'm going to go do this, you know what I mean? Or even just like journaling or taking a walk and things like that. Those are some good coping skills. But I think what's important is I think you all three can recognize when you're experiencing unhealthy relationships. And that's the important key. All right. We will have Miss Callie Warrior here just kind of share a little bit more on the clinical side and your personal experiences about relationships and how culture plays into that. I just want to hear from you and your perspective, and maybe some tips for our young relatives here and our viewers and listeners. So go ahead and share what you have on your mind.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to touch base on just a little bit of what you guys had brought up earlier, because I'm someone who does self-isolate too. But that could be like a strength. That could be something that protects you. And I do that because like what I have been told and what I believe as a person, as a clinician, is like, you're not wrong for how you initially feel. So I've been told things right, and I've been like envious or jealous or mad, sad, angry, felt betrayed, all of those things, right? That's how I initially feel. But I know that I need to step away and acknowledge my feelings, react emotionally, so I could come back and react rationally. Because if I react in that moment, I'm someone who, I hate this, but I'm someone who, if I get upset, I start crying, and I'm like, get it together, Kelly.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot.
And so that's another reason why I have to step away. And whenever I'm like high emotional distress, I start crying, then I can't think, then I start stuttering, and then it's a hot mess. So being able to self-isolate, acknowledge those feelings, love on myself, journal, talk to someone about it, talk to my therapist about it, whatever, get it out. And then I'm able to go back in that environment. So I do see a lot of strength in that self-isolation and withdrawing, but also not pushing it so far that we're sending ourselves, we're overthinking, we're digging ourselves in like a deeper hole, and it gets darker. Not to that extent. Okay.
And it ends up with a mental breakdown.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that there is a balance. And it can be like a spectrum. So thank you, girls, for sharing that. Yes. So relationships, I love relationships. So whenever you're becoming a mental health counselor, you have to find a theory that fits you. And so my theory is called psychodynamics. And so what that mainly consists of is relationships. So the relationship that you have with your primary caregiver. So whether that's like a grandparent, an uncle, aunt, a foster parent, your biological parents, whoever, that primary relationship molds your relationship throughout your life. And the reason why it's that way is because those are the first introductions to the world. That's why it is so critical. So your first introduction to everything. So what your family believes and what they teach you, that's pretty much what you tend to believe throughout your life. And so if you grow up seeing like a lot of violence and a lot of negative things like that, that's how your worldview is going to be shaped. And that thinking can go so far that it can be implemented in your DNA. And so that's how come we see so much historical trauma and things like that, intergenerational trauma passed down, that some things like that are embedded in our DNA. But not only that, resiliency, overcoming those things, healthy practices, those are embedded in our DNA too. And so I think that there's a spectrum of relationships. So when I think about relationships as an Indigenous clinician, I think about our relationship with ourselves. So it could be, it's a journey. So it could be like mistrusting at one point, where you love on yourself, you're confident, you speak healthy things into your life. I think about that relationship. I think about the relationship that we may have with Creator. Like, how consistent is that? Are we talking to Creator? Are those things happening? And then, of course, our friends and our family. And having a relationship with your family is definitely important. And that's kind of like a given. But as you get older, you start to develop these relationships with your friends. And that's important because that's helping mold your identity. Your friends have an influence on you and you have an influence on them. So what does that look like moving forward? Is that healthy? Is that negative? And whenever I think about healthy and negative relationships, negative relationships can look like healthy relationships, because we could be being manipulated. And one way that people can do that is through microaggressions. So have you girls heard of microaggressions before?
No.
Yeah. So that's whenever someone gives you kind of like a backhanded compliment. They're like, some things that I've heard is like, you're a good basketball player for someone who's tall, or you're pretty for a brown girl, or you're smart for a brown girl, things like that. Yeah. And they could be really harsh. It's like they're giving you a compliment, but there's like an ugly part to it.
Like a passive aggressiveness.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so those are what microaggressions are. And like other different forms of abuse in a relationship. Now that is a whole spectrum, because abuse is very diverse in a relationship. Like, it could be financial, it could be spiritual, it could be keeping track of your location, saying those microaggressions, like trying to control you. And like more of the common ones that you see in like media is like the physical abuse and emotional abuse, things like that. But it comes in many different forms. And also that could, that negative relationship could be someone that you love, could be someone that has known you since before you were born. So that could be your primary caregiver. It could be like one of your best friends, a sibling, a cousin, someone like that. But also a healthy relationship, that could be someone that isn't as close with you. So it could be, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher, it could be someone that you go to ceremony with, or someone in your family, and whenever I think of a healthy relationship, some of the primary things that I need for my own mental well-being is someone who is, who speaks love into me. Kelly, you're great. Like, I love the work you do. Like, they support me in my dreams. They make me feel safe and secure, so I can confide in them. I could share like personal things that are happening, and they're contributing to my mental health well-being. They're contributing to my growth. These are conversations that me and Mackie have. Mackie is someone who I call a close friend of mine. So if I'm having something wrong, like professionally, personally, I can go to him and he can help me get through that. He can support me. He's given me resources, things like that. But not only is he giving that to me, I'm giving him that as well. So it's not just a dead end relationship where he's giving. I'm also holding that space for him too. And so that's what I feel like what goes into a healthy relationship. It's not just one-sided. There's things happening on both ends where we're loving each other, we're communicating, we're loyal, we're trusting. It goes back and forth. So one thing that I definitely wanted to touch base on is something that was really big in my family is loyalty. Mackie had asked like how your relationship with your family, does that correlate with your relationship with your friends? And it definitely does, because things that happen in your family, like what you have learned, you may treat your friends like that. So I think about in my family, we're very, very loyal. And what I seen growing up, like it was to the point of like we believe our family, we have our family's back so hardcore, even if they're wrong. And like sometimes that's not okay. Like if they're doing something wrong, we're like, no, they're not in the wrong. Like we're going to support them 100%. And it should be, no, we should be having a conversation about like changing that behavior or addressing it by any means. And I've just experienced such a heavy level of loyalty. If I don't get that from my friends, I'm feeling insecure. I'm just like, why aren't you loyal to me? I don't like that. Why would you talk to this person? Like, but that's just what my family taught me. That doesn't mean that that's the same for someone else. And so I've had to change my thinking. Like, not everybody is loyal to the extreme that it's harmful. And that's okay, because in some aspects, like I learned unhealthy ways of loyalty. And so loyalty, I feel like is also a spectrum in a sense. And so I think that that's something to help, that can help you guys navigating, is learning like how what you have learned in your family might not be the norm for other people, and what other people, your friends and stuff, what they've learned in their family, that might not be the norm for you. And it's okay. It's just about communicating, navigating those unique different relationships.
That was a whole bomb. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, thanks for providing that insight and sharing that. You definitely kind of opened my mind to a few things too. And so big shout out for sharing that. And like Kelly said, we go back and forth with our relationship and provide that support and resource to each other. There's times where Kelly confided to me and she had tears in her eyes, but vice versa with me, where I was emotional too and I would confide in her, and that just shows the vulnerability we have with each other. And so it almost sounds like we could be boyfriend and girlfriend, but that just shows that high comfortability and healthiness of that relationship. Like it's was it non-platonic?
Platonic.
Platonic.
It is very platonic.
Platonic. We're not boyfriend and girlfriend. But so like what I'm saying is, like, you can be that vulnerable and there is not a sexual intimacy part of it or any kind of thing like that. It just shows the level of your relationship and where that's at. And when I started with Morningstar, I've been with Morningstar for 2 years now, and I kind of just talk to Kelly every now and then she shared that there was a job opportunity with Morningstar, and that's when I came on, and then that's when our relationship just kind of took off, and we built that together, and it grew and got to know each other and vulnerable. And so those relationships, they take time and effort, so if you really want to get connected with someone, it takes work and time and vulnerability, and just some of the things I wanted to end with this section on healthy relationships is accept your differences between you and your friend or your partner or your family. You're not always going to see eye to eye on certain things. You're not going to agree on certain things. So it's best just accept those differences. There's going to be different things like that. So that's a key thing. And also be aware of the conflicts, in your relationship. So that means your workers, family, friends, what conflicts coming up with that. When those do happen, make sure you have a way to deal with that in a constructive manner. So how are you going to talk about that? How are you going to communicate with that? So make sure that's in place too. And then finally, just letting them know that how the relationship is making you feel. So like if you feel like you're giving it all and they're not giving anything back or not as much, you need to communicate that and let them know. And so just let them know where that relationship is at. So just want to end on that with some suggestions and some suggestions to help with future relationships and things like that. So right now we're going to take a few minutes for a brief break and hear some words from one of our amazing sponsors. So we'll do that now, and we will rejoin here shortly and continue these amazing conversations that we're having. So give us a few minutes and we'll be back.
Morningstar Counseling is a Native and woman-owned mental health organization that was established in 2012. Morningstar Counseling incorporates cultural values and practices through prevention, outreach, psychoeducation, and training, and serves individuals and families across the lifespan.
All right, and we're back. That was a brief message from one of our amazing sponsors. We appreciate you for making this podcast possible. So thank you for that. Next, we are going to go into the conversation about how do we develop a healthy physical wellness, what that looks like, how do we maintain that, how do we practice that. So like I said, we're focused on healthy emotional relationships, and now we want to talk about our physical well-being too. And so to start us off, let's go ahead and think about like how do you experience a physical healthy relationship with yourself? What does that look like for you when we think about a healthy physical relationship with ourselves? Or what do you think that is? I guess I could start with that. When I say that, a healthy physical relationship with ourselves, what do we think that means or looks like?
I think taking care of yourself, like eating healthy, like staying active to keep like your blood going, and like just doing things that'll help you in certain ways that your body needs.
All right. Okay.
I like working out. I like lifting.
Nice. Okay. All right. Yeah. So those are ways that we maintain that physical healthy relationship with ourselves, because there's a concept, oh man, Kelly knows this term. I can't say it. It's always hard. But basically the concept is mental health has this relationship with our physical health. So if we're not taking care of our mental health, our body's going to show it. That's going to affect the body. If, we're working out, taking care of our physical body, but we're not doing our mental health, then our mental health is going to show it. So like they have that relationship together. And so that's why we kind of put that together with maintaining a healthy physical wellness there. So what kind of physical activities do each of you participate in your daily lives?
I'm part of the cheer squad at Wildhill Public School.
Mm-hmm.
So we normally cheer at the games.
Mm-hmm.
I also do track sometimes.
Okay.
It really depends on how mentally I am, but if I can, I do track.
Okay. Nice.
Go ahead.
I like playing volleyball.
Okay.
I say like I like jogging.
Mm.
I don't know, it just like helps me clear my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So like jogging or running or going for like a little walk. And I also like, I used to lift weights, but I want to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been like so busy and hectic with like school and trying to like stay focused on that.
Right.
It's just difficult to manage.
Yeah. Especially with each of you in your senior year, I'm sure your schedule is stacked right now. And, another thing to add on to it just will add to that strain and that stress there. But I'm glad that each of you practice some kind of physical wellness that's really going to help with your mental health. So for me, I love working out. I go to the gym in Sioux City and lift weights. It's crazy. I used to be a runner too. I used to run instead, and I hated weights. But then somewhere out of the line, my hate shifted to running, and I like to weightlift now. And when I'm done weightlifting, I always tease people. I said, if you need something or you want a favor from me, the best time to ask me is right after I'm done working out, because I have this like big release of, and I think it's called endorphins. You know what I mean? That good feeling, that good chemical in your body. And so I feel really great on that drive home. I reflect and think about things. And so that's a good thing for physical fitness, and that comes with the physical wellness there too. So just practicing that. So what would be your guys' suggestions if someone is, I guess, don't really have that physical wellness or practice physical activities and things like that in their life? What would be your suggestions for them to get started? Or how did each of you get started with your physical journey?
I started out on going like little walks and like working my way up to running, and like starting off small and working to the bigger things that like you want to do.
Okay.
I kind of started I kind of started in junior high because that's when I started going out for track. And then and then I kind of stopped a little when I got to 10th grade. And that's when we officially started cheer season again because of COVID and stuff. And cheer just went on from there. And yeah.
Okay.
I've always played volleyball, so that, yeah. And then my sophomore year I had a weightlifting class, and I really liked the teacher, and she taught me a lot of stuff.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that for each of you. Appreciate that. Like a cultural piece to it. Do any of you dance at all or anything like that? Yeah.
Used to.
Used to. Well, what did you? Well, I guess what was that experience like? Or do you want to go on in depth about that a little bit more?
Yeah, my family goes to like PALS in the summer every weekend, so it was really fun. But I stopped once I got in a car accident. Like I never danced after that. But when I did, it was just like a really exciting thing, and I just love everything about PALS. Really fun.
Yeah. Nice, appreciate that. Yeah, so that's like another part of the physical wellness too, and is keeping those practices alive too. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Why do you think we should continue the physical wellness, and how may it impact our mental health? Just any thoughts or ideas on that?
My sophomore year is when I was like really into working out, and that's like the happiest I've ever been. So just knowing, like you said, after you're done working out, you feel good and you reflect on a lot of things.
Yeah, I feel like working out is like the time to like think and just think about a lot of things. And then have self-reflection time because you're working on yourself. And you're your main priority in that time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you explained that well. One of my things for me, some of my friends asked like, hey, can we go work out with you, or can you let us know when you go work out? And I'm just like hesitant to invite them. And I only say that because when I'm working out, that's kind of, I told them that's like me time. That's like me to release my frustrations and just to think. And because when I'm working out, I lift weights, but I have my music in, so I play certain music that I like and just do the workouts that I want, and I don't have to wait for somebody, because when you're lifting somebody, you have to wait for them to get done, and then just this whole thing with it. But it's kind of like my self-care plan too, just being able to reflect on myself and things like that too. So yeah, it's important to keep those things in mind and practice those physical wellness there. And another idea to think about it too is, back then for our ancestors, I think it's kind of with our younger ones, like we didn't have like McDonald's or, grocery store and things like that. So we had to go hunting for our food. So we were always active to a certain degree. You know what I mean? We always had to go and we were always moving. We weren't as, luxurious that we have now with certain things too. So I think that's another important thing to think about, is our ancestors weren't just sitting around. They had to physically be involved to live life on a daily, So, that was just trying to get an idea of what physical wellness look like for each of you, and why it's important to practice that too. So we do have another brief commercial break here, another sponsor we want to give time to share some words. So we'll take a few moments for that, and we'll come back, and we have some closing remarks and some closing resources and some upcoming activities that we want to share. So we will be back here shortly.
The Society of Care is a leading trauma resource for self-identified Native American youth and their families throughout Nebraska. We care for our relatives by providing accessible, affordable, and culturally sensitive behavioral care. As passionate advocates, we give Native youth a voice, connect them to services, provide wellness education, instill cultural pride, and empower them to build resilience. We believe in a brighter future for our relatives and are guided by caring deeply, transforming lives, and healing communities.
My name is Jamasina. I'm the Director of Substance Abuse Prevention for the Society of Care. We serve Indigenous communities throughout the state of Nebraska.
We teach coping skills so that people can navigate through hard times without turning to substances.
Our program focuses on coping strategies and uses culture as prevention, as it is a protective factor.
We also help people in recovery that want to reconnect with their families.
With our program, we really want to encourage families to be active in their child's life and to encourage the bonding with the family to make us stronger tiwahe. The classes that we offer are sewing classes and medicine picking classes, talking circles, and mentoring, and much more to come. If you are looking to get involved, reach out to the Society of Care through our Facebook page or call the Santee Health Center at 402-857-2300. Reach out when you need help. Recovery is for everyone.
All right, and we're back. I just want to say thank you for our sponsors for making this opportunity possible and providing this opportunity for our youth to come in and talk about the mental health challenges and topics there, and having really amazing, powerful conversations. We love that and enjoy that. So thank you to one of our sponsors there. So like I said, we want to end the show with some upcoming services and activities that are coming in, and also share our psychoeducation flyers. First, we'll start with our first psychoeducation flyer, which focuses on vaping and how it affects your mental health there. We've been hearing some conversations and feedback from our community partners in public schools that there is a growing concern with vaping with our younger relatives, but also it's ideal to let our older elders know about the harms of vaping too. So if you're interested in learning more about vaping and its effects on the mental health and physical health of your body, go ahead and reach out to us. We can share that psychoeducation flyer with you, or you can find it on our social media and website there too. And so this is something that goes out each month, bi-weekly, or 2 times a month, bi-monthly, just 2 psychoeducation flyers that has those topics there. And so this is our first one. Our second topic is going to focus on alcohol and the effects that it has on our mental health and also our physical health there. And so the psychoeducation flyer, like I said, can be found on our website and our social media here. If you're interested in understanding the impact that the alcohol has on our body, but also the benefits that it has for embracing, not the benefits of alcohol, but the benefits of having healthy habits too. And one of the ideas was starting the new year with a healthy mindset and creating those healthy habits, and just kind of understanding the negative effects that alcohol has on the body and mental health there. So if you want more information on that, go ahead and reach out to us, like I said, to receive that. But like I said, these psychoeducation flyers are free online on our social media pages, our website, and things like that. And we're always open to taking more topics. If you see a growing concern for certain mental health challenges or topics, go ahead and send those and reach out to us, and we can make psychoeducation flyers pertaining to that. Next, we'll talk about another opportunity. It is called Hopeful Futures, and this is facilitated by Society of Care, one of our partners. So Hopeful Futures, it's a Native youth leadership curriculum, and it focuses on recognizing, enhancing, and evaluating and practicing each youth's innate personality, gifts, and talents. This is accomplished through a series of 2 9-hour modules in the form of web circles, and that's once a week. And it's it's a combination of, like I said, leadership development, and it's a talking group, and it focuses on personal leadership qualities and traits too, and also to build confidence, and just prepares our Native youth to lead to lead. And so, like I said, there's a curriculum with that. And if you're interested in the Hopeful Futures curriculum and program, go ahead and reach out to us or Society of Care. We can share more information on that. What's great about that too is they are offering a class at NICC, the Nebraska Indian Community College. And if you participate in that course, you'll get a college credit for the Hopeful Futures there. So Great opportunity there for any of our relatives that are listening and tuning in. And next, we have an amazing announcement with some college counseling services through Morningstar Counseling. We've been providing some counseling services for a while. We've been partnered with NICC, Nebraska Indian Community College, and Little Priest Tribal College. But we're really excited to announce that we have 2 more additional tribal colleges to join our counseling services, and that is Haskell Indian Nations University, which is located in Lawrence, Kansas. And then we have and I apologize for this, I've been trying to pronounce this name correctly, but the Aniha Nakota College. And so they've been added to our college services there, and we're excited to continue expanding our college services to our relatives there. And so if you are interested, if you're in college and you're interested in possibly receiving our services, our partnership, go ahead and reach out to us and let us know that interest, and we can get those partnerships and discussions started and going if possible. Next, I want to talk about an annual event that we have, and it's called the Grow Our Own Camp. Grow Our Own is an opportunity to expose our youth and juniors and seniors, expose our youth to the mental health field, and for them to learn more topics about mental health and the foundational level of mental health and what it is to be a psychologist and therapist and things like that, and just the different theories and practices that goes into that. We will have a flyer soon for that. The Grow Our Own typically happens in the summertime, and most likely it'll be aiming for June or July sometime. It is a free service. It's tuition free. It is a long week camp. It's a Monday through Friday, and each day we have facilitators, different activities, self-care activities for the youth to participate in. We have a really amazing project they'll be part of and get to share at the end of the camp. And what's great too is we partner with Little Priest Tribal College on this camp here. And if the students complete the camp, attend the 5 days, and complete the necessary items for it, they will receive college credit for that as well. And so that camp is called Grow Our Own Camp, and it's open to the juniors and seniors in the surrounding areas. And the camp is usually held in Winnebago, Nebraska, but that's open to the Santee community, the Walt Hill community, the Macy community. So it's not just limited to Winnebagos, it's open to all Native youth and non-Native youth as well. And just be lookout for more information on that camp soon. That'll be out there. Next, we are talking about the All Nations Crisis Text Line. This is an amazing service that we have started up. We revamped it and have it going. And so this is a text line, and it's free, and it's available for the Native American population within the state of Nebraska. And so what you can do is just text support to 33464, and you can receive that help there. And it's we have Monday through Friday, and that's from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. And then we have Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. there. And so, like I said, that's the All Nations Crisis Text Line. Like I said, just text support to 33464. And also, if you want more information, you can go to the allnationshotline.org. That is the website there. And this is a service in partnership with Morningstar Counseling and Society of Care there. And so the flyer is online on our social medias and website too. So we encourage our relatives to participate in that and take advantage of that service. It's there to help our relatives, and if they're experiencing any kind of mental distress and situation there. And then finally, we just want to share our Facebook pages that house this information and houses these services and future programming. Just want to make sure our viewers and listeners are aware of where to find that information. So you can go to the Morningstar Counseling page on Facebook, very responsive and very active on our social. You can catch our any upcoming events, services that are available, and if there's any office closures and things like that due to winter or any weather there. Next, we have the Santee Society of Care page. And just want to share with our relatives. There are several Society of Care pages, but that's on purpose. We have different service areas, and so this is the Santee Society of Care page here, and this is services, programming, and opportunities coming up for the Santee relatives there. And you can reach out to Society of Care for more information, or you can visit our website for more information on these services and things like that there. And so that's available for our Santee relatives there. And next we have our Northeast Nebraska Society of Care Facebook page. And this is just for our relatives located in that area there. Like I said before, just check the website or the Facebook page frequently and see what's coming and what services and programs available. And reach out to us if you have any questions there for anything that's coming up. And so those are our Facebook pages, our resources that we have available, and some upcoming programming that's coming. We appreciate our viewers and listeners, and we just want to make sure those opportunities are out there for everyone to take advantage of or be aware of. And so finally, what else we like to do is we like to end the show with a coping skill, and we're going to go through that here a little bit. But usually we practice that on screen, but this is not necessarily something we physically practice, but it's more practicing gratitude. So when we think about gratitude, we think about the things that we are appreciative and thankful for. And so one of these practices, and this is for our young relatives too, this is something that each of you can participate in, but journaling, writing down what you're grateful for. Not just like a one-time thing, but make it kind of like a routine, maybe every day or every week or bi-weekly, but make sure you're just practicing that, writing down your ideas and maybe a journal, and think of the things you're grateful for your family, grateful for another day of life, grateful for a healthy body, grateful for, a home, food, and just practicing that gratitude and thinking about it, or even just voicing that with our relatives too. So when you're at the dinner table or you're at a family function, get up and share some words that you're grateful, or even just, if it's one-on-one, go to a family member or one of your friends and just say, yeah, I'm really grateful for you being in my life and your relationship and for supporting me. And just practicing that gratitude, that's going to help you, help you with your mental health and things like that too. That's another coping skill. And one more kind of technique too, pertaining to gratitude, is I encourage you our viewers and listeners, and even our young relatives here to practice, to do this activity. It's called a gratitude letter. And what you can do is think of someone that maybe you don't express gratitude a whole lot to, or it's been a while, and think about what you're grateful for and what you would tell them in that letter. And in a sense, you are writing them a letter. You write them a letter, you tell them what you're grateful for. Write that up, and then once you have that letter, go ahead and deliver that to them, and give that gratitude letter to them so they can read that. So I encourage our viewers, listeners, our young relatives here to practice that. Think of someone that you haven't really expressed a lot of gratitude to lately. Maybe it's even our own parents. Maybe we don't tell them that enough, and so we write a brief letter to them. Write that together, put and mail it, or take it to them personally, and have them read that. I know that would brighten up our relatives' days. So those are some coping and mental health tips to end the podcast with today. We appreciate that. If there's any other coping skills that our viewers and listeners want to know more about or interested in more, go ahead and reach out to us, and we can incorporate that into future shows. But we're at the ending part of our podcast here. We appreciate our viewers and listeners for tuning in this long and hearing these amazing conversations and being a part of this vulnerability with our guests and also with ourselves. And so what we like to do is we like to close the podcast with just any kind of closing thoughts, words, or shout outs. And so feel free to start us off, and so just share any closing ideas, thoughts, or shout outs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to thank Shell for driving us up here.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. well, I want to say thank you too for just being here, taking time out of your day to share your thoughts. You know what I mean? I just want to remind each of you, everything you spoke today and shared, like you're gonna be affecting someone. You want to hear this and watch this, and so I just want to commend you and say that I'm proud of each of you for getting up here, voicing and sharing, and being vulnerable, because sometimes that's hard for us, but I see the three of you as the next generation and the next powerful Indigenous youth making moves and making things happen and keeping the fight alive, So thanks for being here and sharing that time with me, sharing the space with me. And like I said before, if you want to come back, be a part of this podcast and some of the conversations that happen, some of the conversation that we're having in the future, I encourage you to come back and reach out and come and share. Like, don't want to think this is like a one-time kind of thing. You can come back and always share. So that is that. And we appreciate you and thank you for being here. And also for our listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in and watching this with us. Please be safe, be kind to each other, pray to Creator and thank Him for another day of life and all the opportunities He provides. And we are done, and we will see you on the next episode.
Intertribal dances.